Hey, what's up good people? My name is Sean and in today's video I'm going to be doing a deck profile and breakdown of the Majespecter archetype built for the NR Festival in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Hope you all enjoying the festival so far. I know I'm having a lot of fun with it. So let's go on and get into the background and talk about who are the Majespecters and what are they all about. The Majespecters are a spellcaster based pendulum archetype. All of the monsters in the archetype are very low level, being level 4 or level 3, and they don't have massive attacks, with their strongest monster being 1500, not counting their boss monster Kirim. Now what's great about the Majespecters is that they all give you free resources every time they are summoned to the field. So every time you normal summon or you special summon them, they will get you cards out of your deck. And they have a lot of variety of cards that they can search out to do different effects. Majespecters are the epitome of a deck designed to be built for the pendulum format of Master Rule 3, and the way they kind of embody that is that a lot of their spell cards and their trap cards include the clause of Tribute 1 win spellcaster monster. For those who don't know, in Yu-Gi-Oh! When you used to do a pendulum summon, you could summon as many pendulum monsters from your hand or your extra deck to the field as you could possibly fill up in order to do your plays. But however, in Master Rule 4, this got nerfed and you can only summon a monster to the extra monster zone. And so pendulums can't go as crazy with as many summons as they once were able to. This is important to consider because where the downside of having to tribute a lot of monsters in order to use these effects was once easily remedied through the fact that you could use the pendulum summon as a mechanic to get those monsters back, you can't really do that anymore with modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And so you have to take that into mind when you are trying to build Majespecters. But this will become more apparent as we go through the deck profile. So we're now going to go off and talk about starters. What cards would we use to build a Majespecter deck? And really, this is why Majespecters are so good for this NR format. And that is because most of the Majespecter monsters are pretty much intact and legal to play. They're not high rarity cards, and they're very cheap and easy to build. Their best card, Majespecter Raccoon Bumbuku, is semi-limited, however that's still pretty good at 2. So Majespecters are in a very strong position. How they all work is every time they are summoned you get a card from your deck and add it to your hand, but they are all a little bit different in what they do. The best card is Bumbuku. When you summon this card, you can add a Majespecter monster from your deck to your hand. When you then have Ogama, you can then set a Majespecter spell or trap card directly from your deck to the field, but you cannot activate this turn. Yata gets you spell cards from your deck to your hand, and QB gets you trap cards from your deck to your hand. Nakamata is by far the worst one. It allows you to add any Majespecter card, but you can only do so during the end phase. And so it is a good effect, but it's not definitely the best one, and she's better off being used as a pendulum scale. But with 13 starter cards, this gives us about a 90% chance that you will open with at least one of these cards in your opening hand, and that is a really good number to have when you're building a deck. So now we're going to move on to extenders. Extenders are cards that work like starters. They get you more summoned, add cards to the field, add cards to your hand, but they require a little bit of setup in order to be able to do that. And for this we are relying on Majespecter monsters, but also some Paleozoic monsters. For the Majespecter monsters, because you're playing a pendulum deck, in essence, if you've never really played a pendulum deck, the best way to approach it is you need the same number of low scales as there are high scales in your deck. So Nakamata and QB and Nakamata and QB are your low scale 2. That means you can then summon anything that is level 3 or higher. And then you've got your high scales, which are the high scales 5, which is Bumbuku, Yata, and Ogama. So you can be able to summon anything that's between level 3, level 4 to the field, which covers your Majespecter monsters. Now, so we have 6 copies of level 2 scales, and then we have 7 copies of scale 5. It is just a little bit not the same. It would be more if we were allowed to, but we're not, but that's fine. So we're just evening them out so you have enough scales in order to do your pendulum summoning. And yeah, that's how they work as extenders, being able to get cards back from your extra deck to the field, or summon them directly from your hand to the field, and then you proc their effects, and then they get you more resources out of your deck. We're also playing one copy of Majesty Pegasus. I don't think this card is really needed, but it's nice to have. It is not searchable at all in this build because it is not a Majespecter card, it's called Majesties, so you can't search it out. But what it does do is you contribute one wind spellcaster monster and special summon one level 4 or lower Majespecter monster from your deck. So this basically allows you to swap one of your monsters for another one. Now, so it's really nice to do something like normal summon Nekomata, activate her effect, and then tribute her to go and get Bumbuku, and then go get another card for free immediately. So it's nice in that effect, but it is costly, and it isn't searchable, so I'm only playing one of it. Then we're using the Paleozoic Monsters as an engine in this deck, because Majespecters, because they have effects that require you to tribute them on the field, sometimes you're going to lose board presence quite easily, and so Paleozoics are going to help us out quite a bit here. If you've never met the Paleozoic Monsters before, they are trap cards that become monsters when they're in your graveyard and another trap card is activated. They're really good. They're level 2 monsters. They come as level 2 cards, and then we can use them for other things that we'll talk about later on. But one thing that we really want our board presence to be used for is to be able to go into link summons. There are 2 extended link monsters that I think are very, very important to have in this build. And we have Gravity Controller and Cross Sheep. Gravity Controllers is a Link 1 monster. It takes one non-link monster in an extra monster zone, and it has an arrow pointing to the bottom left. It cannot be used as link material the turn it is link summoned, and it cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster in the main monster zone. And at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster in the extra monster zone, you can return both that monster and this card to the deck. Really, you're just using this card because it's a link 1 and it has an arrow pointing down. So if you have a Majespecter monster in your extra monster zone, you've used its effect and you want to get it off the field, you can then just turn it into Gravity Controller and then do a Pendulum Summon and summon a card to the zone Gravity Controller points to, and that way you're not clogging up your extra monster zone. Now, another very important thing to have in a deck like this is to be able to do a Pendulum Summon to summon out more than one monster. And so you want cards that have multiple arrows pointing to your monster zones. And I think the best card to do that is Cross Sheep. There are other link monsters that you can do for this. I think there's a Herald card, but none of them really have effects that are that good. So I'm just going for the one with the highest attack. It would be Land Fornicus, but Land Fornicus is a super rare. So we're going to go with Cross Sheep because there's 2 arrows pointing down. And basically you use 2 monsters on your field, link summon out Cross Sheep, and then Pendulum summon them back out to the field. So you can go and make an easy, quick Pendulum link 3 or even a link 4 if you have one that's really good to go for. Although I don't think I am playing any link 3s in this deck. So those are your extenders, cards that put more monsters on the field. So now we're going to look at removal cards, things that get rid of the threats that your opponent is going to put against you. We've got 15 cards here. First of all, we've got Ancient Warriors Loyal Guan Yun. If you're looking for a monster that is just a solid monster to play in this format, Loyal Guan Yun is very, very good. He's a 2500 attack level 7 monster. That is, if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If only your opponent controls a monster. So it's kind of like Cyber Dragon in a way, but much stronger. And then your opponent cannot target other, it doesn't matter. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you could target one monster your opponent controls and destroy it. This card reminds me of a lot of Dino Wrestler Pancratops, but a little bit more restrictive, but he's still a good beat stick nonetheless. And because your Majespecter monsters have very low attack, I think the highest one is 1500, then having a monster that's a good beat stick is really, really good for being able to push for damage and go for game. We have other removals in the form of things like MST to destroy spells and trap cards, and then also Paleozoic Olenoidis in order to destroy spell and trap cards during your opponent's turn as well. Also turns into a monster as an extender. And then we have cards that we can use as well, like Paleozoic Dynamiscus, a very flexible normal trap card that can target one card on the field, discard one card, and then if you do, banish it. This is the one thing that Paleozoics that Majespecters can't really do, is banishing cards. So having a way to get rid of monsters on the field that isn't destroying them is very, very good to have. And plus, this becomes a monster later on that you can use to do XE summons and link summons. And then we have also Majespecter Sonics. Now, I want to talk about Majespecter cards and the cards that I think are viable. I see a lot of people playing Majespecters, and I think a lot of people are playing it wrong because they're not understanding how to do resource management with Majespecters. A lot of these cards here are no longer viable to be played in Majespecters. And in fact, when Majespecters were even popular, we didn't play a lot of these cards. There are a lot of good removal options. They're nice, they're very attractive. Things like Majespecter Storm, tribute 1 wind spellcaster, then target 1 monster your opponent controls and shuffle it in. Very powerful effect, but it costs you 2 cards in order to get rid of 1 card. Then you've got Cyclone, destroys a card, a quick play spell card, but it costs you to give up 2 of your cards in order to destroy 1 card your opponent controls. You're going neg, you're losing card advantage there. Same with Majespecter Tornado. So there is a card that can banish. I did say that wrong, but what I'm pointing out here is that Majespecter Tornado costs you 2 cards in order to banish 1 of your opponent's cards. Now, in the age of Pendulum Monsters, when you could summon back 5 monsters every single turn, it didn't matter. You didn't really care about tributing your monsters because you were going to get those cards back. But nowadays, you can't go that crazy with it, and so you need to rely on other forms of removal that can just trade with your opponent, so that when you do gain advantage, you stay ahead of your opponent. And that is why you are trying to focus on using these cards here. So things like Paleozoic, you destroy 1 spell trap card on the field, you lose 1 card, they lose 1 card, and then you get this back as a monster. It's more better in terms of resource management. So, the only one that I recommend playing that is a removal card is Sonics. Sonics targets 1 Majespecter monster you control. Until the end of this turn, its attack and defense become double its current attack and defense. It turns your very small attack monsters into double attack monsters, up to a maximum of 3,000, maybe even more if you have the field spell on the field. You can get up to about 3,600, I think, with their strongest monster. So it's a really nice card, and it can be used in the damage step to get over a really big monster. And it only doesn't cost you anything in order to use it. It's just the 1 card itself. Now, on to other cards that we can use with removal. We have some extra deck options as well. We have number 45, Crowball Logos, the Prophet of Dissolution, or Devolution. No, Demolition. There's the whole word there. This is a rank 2 zombie monster, and once per turn you can target 1 material from this card, and then target 1 other face-up card on the field, and while this monster is face-up in the field, that target's effect is negated. It's a good card. It's got 2200 attack. It's the strongest attacking rank 2 you can make using your Paleozoic monsters, so it's there as an option. But there's also the Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin. This allows you to detach to target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Until the end of the turn, its attack becomes 0 and it negates its effect. So it's good as a removal card. Then we have things like Giga Brilliant. Giga Brilliant is pretty nice. You detach 1 material from this card, and it gates all monsters you control gain 300 attack. However, what's really nice about Giga Brilliant is that you can use it as a rank 3 insect to go into Digital Bug Core Barge. Now, what this card says is you can also XE summon this card by detaching 2 XE materials from a rank 3 or 4 insect type monster you control, and then use that as an XE monster as the material. So you summon out your Giga Brilliant, and then you rank over or rank up into Digital Bug Core Barge via its own effect. Now, you might want to do this because Digital Bug Core Barge has a nice effect, and that is once per turn, you can detach 1 XE material from this card to target 1 defense position monster your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. And then, if the battle position of a monster on the field is changed, you can attach 1 insect type monster to this card as XE material. The only card you're going to do that is Giga Brilliant, but it gives you more resources for it. So it's just a fun option. It's not required by any means, but in case there is a big defense monster you can't get past, this is a good option for you to get rid of it off the field. And then Black Ship of Corn is there as a rank 4. You're not going to really be making many rank 3s or rank 4, I should say. It's not very likely you're going to do so, and if you are, you have to understand that your pendulum cards are going to go to the graveyard, so you won't be able to get them back. So ideally you want to go for link summons, but if you do find yourself in the situation where you can make a rank 3 or you can make a rank 4, I thought these would be the most impactful cards to go for. And Black Ship of Corn has 2100 attack and can send 1 monster on the field to the graveyard with less attack equal to this card, and then burn your opponent for 1000. So it's okay. As for other removal cards, well, they're not really removal cards, but kind of just big attack monsters. You've got Triple Burst, a rank 3, 2 monsters plus a token. It does piercing damage. It also has a bit of a negation effect for the damage step, but it's really not that great. There's also Power Code Torka, again another card you don't really need. Targets 1 monster on the field, negates its effect, and if it battles an opponent's monster, it can gain attack, It isn't really that good. Tenny's kind of cool. He's a 3000 attack beater, big boy. Not that too hard to summon, particularly when you could do 2 monsters, make cross sheep, and then you can use cross sheep and another monster to make this, and then you've got a 3000 attack monster. But that's all it is. It's just a beat. It's just a blue eyes basically that you can summon out from your deck. So, moving on into protection cards and ways you're going to not take any damage from your opponent. I'm just seeing that my stuff is messed up there. There we go. Protection. And so, things that are going to protect or interrupt your opponent during their turn. And here are our options here. So we've got Sonics. Sonics is good as to protect your monsters from being destroyed. Just set it to the field, let them attack into your weak monster, and then nope, double the attack and get rid of that threat. We've got 3 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole. Again, a really good removal card. Used to be one of the best removal cards back in the day, or defensive cards. It doesn't target. As long as a monster has 1500 attack or more, it destroys that monster and banishes it. Really, really great card. Very easy to use. Canadia can flip a monster face down. It's Book of Moon. Book of Moon is very, very viable. So if you want to play Book of Moon instead of Paleozoic cards, you can definitely do that. But this is a Paleozoic monster that can also be Book of Moon as well. And because there are so many ways to interrupt your opponents, flipping cards face down isn't that bad. Dynamiscus we've talked about, and then a couple of fun cards here. I'm playing Fairy Box. This card is really, really fun. How this card works is anytime your opponent does an attack, you get to flip a coin, and if you call it right, the attack becomes 0. And this can happen multiple times during the battle phase. One thing that I haven't specified in terms of protection is that Majespecter monsters have a really great protection effect, and that is all of them say cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And this is what makes them so infuriating to deal with, because they become like little boss monsters, and when you've got things like Sonics to double their attack, then they get really, really annoying because you can't even attack them to get rid of them. So attacking your monsters, attacking over them is how your opponents are mostly going to try and deal with them. So having a card like Fairy Box is really fun to have because you have the chance of reducing their attack to 0. And like I said, this can happen multiple times during the same battle phase, where every single monster your opponent attacks can have their attack reduced to 0 as a 50-50 chance. This also is really fun because you can have multiple copies of Fairy Box that will also trigger simultaneously. So you can even get a higher chance of being able to reduce your opponent's attack if you have multiple copies on the field. So we've got 2 of those. I'm not trying to play too many. I don't really want too many cards that sit on the field because you do need to have your pendulum zones empty. So I'm only doing 2 of them, but I think they're really, really fun to have. And then we've got, last but not least, Majespecter Tempest. I think this is the only card out of Majespecters that is worth tributing a monster to do an effect for, and that is Tempest. When a monster will be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, tribute 1 wind spellcaster to negate this summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. It's a Divine Wrath, it's a very good interruption, it's a Solemn Strike for Majespecters, and it's searchable more than anything. I am a bit curious as to think about how effective this card is in the current NR format. I did have a situation where I was getting beat down by an opponent, and I kind of just wish I had removal instead of a negate. But you do have other cards that can do removal, so hopefully you have many other options as well to do that as well. In terms of protection, we've also got Shining Elf as a rank 2. 2 level 2 monsters. When your opponent normal or special summons a card, you can attach the make that card lose 500. Not really that good, but it's only one of the few interruptions you can do during your opponent's turn. So if you have Paleozoics just sitting on the field and you want to use them for something, and there's nothing else that you could do during your opponent's turn, you can summon out Shining Elf, and then if they summon a monster, you can reduce this attack, and this can be done multiple times during the same turn. And then you have Cat Shark. Again, not a really great card, weak monster, but if this card has a material that is originally water, it cannot be destroyed by battle, so you can just use it as a wall, turn it into defense, and then your opponent cannot really do anything with that. It has another effect, but yeah, it's not very likely you're going to do that. And then Gravity Controller can also protect itself from it can't be destroyed by battles if a monster in the main monster zone, so there's that too. So that is really the deck overall. Let's go into the whole profile and see how this deck looks when you pull it all together. So this is what the deck looks like. We are looking at something like this. We have 3 copies of Nekomata, double Bumbuku, double Yatta, 3 QB, 3 Ogama, 3 Loyal Guan Yu. We have 1 Majesty Pegasus, 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, 3 Majespecter Sonics, 3 Bottomless Trap Hole, 3 Paleozoic Olenoids, 3 Canadia, double, 3 Dynamiscus, 3 Tempest, and double Fairy Box. For the extra deck, we have 1 Shining Elf, and feel free to modify the extra deck. You don't really need an extra deck at all, but yeah, if you find something really cooler to run than these cards, then go for it. Well, you have 1 Shining Elf, 1 Cat Shark, 1 number 45, 1 Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin, 1 number 20, 1 number 50, 1 Digital Bug Claw Barge, 3 Gravity Controller, I think this is mandatory, double Cross Sheep, maybe you want to run 3, don't really need it, 1 Triple Burst is rare, and then Power Code and Berserker for Tenny. So we're now going to wrap up this video by going into a little bit of gameplay to talk about this. But how has this deck performed for me so far? Well, so far it's been very good. I think it's one of the better decks for this format, easily. So let me show you some gameplay and show you what this thing looks like in action. So here we are. I won the coin toss and I'm going to choose to go first because we are playing a deck with lots and lots of trap cards. So let's get into some action. Really loving this festival. It's just fun. It's just a fun way to play, and because cards are cheap for this festival, it allows me to be a lot more creative and make things and come up with different ideas, because I know we're kind of on an even level playing field. I've built Majespecters in the past and I wouldn't play them in order to... Oh, thank you for bringing up the music, that's really appreciated. I wouldn't play them normally to... Let me turn off the audio here. I wouldn't normally play them in order to turn that up. There we go, we've got music now. I wouldn't normally play them in order to kind of go competitively. I definitely wouldn't play them in Platinum, but they're really fun to play nonetheless. But they're just out power crept. So having them in this format and they're pretty much intact is really fun. I messed up here, by the way. I didn't use Necromancer's effect. I was distracted and doing other things. So, I was looking at my phone. So, I should have used Necromancer's effect to go plus there, but I didn't. So, I'm an idiot. But it's fine. It works out nonetheless. We've got a very good board. We've got Fairy Box to reduce opponent's monster's attack, potentially. Bottomless Trap Hole to get rid of a card. And we've also got Majespecter Tempest to negate a summon or monster effect. So, this board is very good. When you're playing Majespecters, the game plan here is just to keep trading, just keep out-resourcing your opponent, getting cards for free, and then using your cards to break their cards, and eventually you will outpace them and out-resource them. It's a lot like Sky Striker is, or if you're looking for a more competitive example, where they gain so much resources and then they could just use their cards to keep trading, and eventually you will have more cards than your opponent. We're not going to do too much here because we haven't got a decent monster, and we will get to a monster eventually. If I had done Necromancer's effect, I would have definitely had a monster by now. Normally you want to go and grab Bambuku. Bambuku is a very good option to get, but because Bambuku can search out your other Majespecter cards, and that means you can get your Pendulum Scales as well. So yeah, Bambuku is really good. But we've got Ogama. Ogama's my favorite. Just a froggy there. What I really like about Ogama is that he can't be hit by Ash Blossom because the card is set directly to the field and not added to your hand. And all of your other cards are vulnerable to things like Ash, but Ogama is not. So he's my personal favorite, but there's no Ash Blossom in the NR Festival because she is an ultimate rare and she's a big money girl. Most popular card in the game, easily. Ash Blossom is most popular card, #1 card in the game. I'm currently in the process of doing meta-analysis videos where I am looking at tournament results to say this is what we found. And I've been looking at the data for cards, and Ash Blossom is definitely up there. Ash Blossom is the most popular card used in the game easily. She's very versatile, and I think she will remain to be just for the fact that Max Z exists. But hey, that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about Majespecters right now. So I use Ogama to go get his main card, and we're going to attack directly to our opponent. Now, one thing you should know about Sonics is Sonics, while it doubles the attack of your monster, it also halves the damage that you will deal as well. So you can't use it to really push the game because you're going to do the same amount of damage as you would without it. Obviously, you want to use it when you want to get over a bigger monster than you. I couldn't believe this card was legal when I saw this. I was like, are you serious? Michion, the Time Lord, is legal for this event? Time Lords are very, very annoying. They are basically unaffected by card effects. They cannot be destroyed by battle, and they cannot be destroyed by card effects. Your opponent takes no damage, and he gets to attack me for free, and then he gets to half my life points. And this bit is what made me worried. I was like, oh god, is there some really cheap kind of burn strategy that's available in this thing? I know in the XYZ festival, people were doing self-burn strategies just to get through the medal process quicker, and Konami stopped that by increasing how many medals you get if you win, and changing how many you get if you lose. I don't really think it was fair, because it's 50 if you lose, 500 if you win, so you really want to try and win, and you're going to be grinding for a lot of time if you are always going to lose. So but hey, play to win. Always play to win. We got Majespecters. It's a really good card to get. It's going to allow us to tag out and get our stuff. I've been considering playing more copies of Majespecters, I'll be honest. We do have a lot of back row. Maybe just to help us get through our deck quicker. It might be helpful to play maybe 2 copies of it. But what I don't want to do, or what you have to be careful with a deck like this, is having too many cards that rely on you having a monster on the field. So you can't use Tempest, you can't use Majesty's Pegasus without wind spellcaster on the field, and that will mean that you will run into situations where you have no monsters available to you, and then you can't use those other cards either. And that's not a really good thing to be in. It's the same problem with equip spell cards, and why equips are not really popular, because you need to have a monster available in order to use that equip spell card. Unless that equip spell card is really good and is worth taking that risk for, which a lot of equip spell cards are not. Anyway, Michian, getting past Michian is really hard, but fortunately during the standby phase it will get shuffled back into his deck. And Time Lords do have a searcher, I think it's just called Time Fairy, but I'm going to hope and assume that that card is a super rare, because you tribute it to special summon a Time Lord out of your deck. And yeah, Time Lords, I'll be honest with you, I can't really deal with the Time Lord. If I did, it would have to be get into a Link 2, and that would take a long time to set up. Made a mistake here again. I should have done Bottomless Trap Hole against Danger, but I was thinking to myself, I've got Sonic, so I'm not really worried about my opponent summoning that monster. I was waiting for maybe a bigger Danger monster to use with Bottomless Trap Hole, but then he plays Moon Mirror Shield, and so I kind of actually do wish I used Bottomless straight away, but that's fine. So we've got Moon Mirror Shield, and Moon Mirror Shield is a quick spell card that is worth playing, because any monster it is equipped to will modify its attack to be the same as the monster it's battling plus 100, so he will always win the battle. Bit unfortunate, we are going to lose Ogama from this, and we are going to take 100 damage, but it's not too threatening, and not something we can't really deal with ourselves here, so I'm not really too worried about that card. End of the turn here, we're going to move on to our turn, and this is what Majespecters looks like. It's a very slow paced deck. It's not crazy combo dynamic deck. It used to be. There used to be ways to turbo multiple copies of Majespecters, then pendulum summon, but nowadays it's really just a control deck. There's one thing I kind of like about this format. It feels like old school Yu-Gi-Oh, because this is what it used to be like. Not loads of crazy cards, not really complicated explanations, just you play this card, it does this, and that's it. We have QB. QB, when summoned, gets you a trap card. So QB is going to get us our final copy of Tempest. So I have to keep in mind that there are no more copies of Tempest in the deck. And then we're going to go to battle phase, and we are going to attack into our opponent. And here's a pro tip here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend I'm acting like, oh, I didn't read Moon Mirror Shield, it should be fine, I should attack him. And then what I should be doing here is I should let the attack go through, turn my thing on, my chain activation onto on, and then right before the damage step, use Mystical Space Typhoon. And that way, if he has a card like a Mirror Force style card that activates when your opponent attacks, like this card here, Trap Hole of Spikes, he wouldn't be able to use it. However, in this situation, it's actually beneficial to us that he does use it, because clearly he's not reading my cards. And as I explained to you in the deck profile, Majespecters cannot be destroyed by our opponents or targeted by our opponent's card effects. So none of his cards are going to do anything to me. I'm not really worried about that nonetheless. He chose to have Moon Mirror Shield put back on top of his deck, which is great because we know exactly what card he's going to draw next. and we have another Mystical Space Typhoon in order to deal with it. So we're now going to go into battle step. We're going to do 300 damage to our Chupacabra here and get rid of it off the field. And then we're going to do 15 directly with Bambuku. And yeah, there isn't really too much here to explain. It's very, very straightforward. It's just a very reliable, easy and fun deck to play. Weenie monsters, lots of summons. I think that seems to be the name of the game here. I said this in my previous video on True Draco, but gadgets are deemed to be one of the best decks. Although it's gadget generator, but generators have been hit by the limited list, so I don't know how viable they are, but maybe I'll look into it and do that. There are other decks which I've got ideas for building for this festival, and so hopefully you guys are enjoying these videos and seeing multiple videos uploaded in one day. I know that can be very rare for me. I've been failing hard to get to a regular schedule, but I mentioned this in my last video, but I am recovering from COVID, and it's been fun having that battle. But I really have been trying to get this channel kick-started and going. So I thank anyone who tunes into this stuff, and anybody who's watching this video still half an hour into it, because I know most people switch off by then. So no, do really appreciate it. And yeah, man, I've got so many ideas. I just want to put them out there. That's all I want to do, just get those ideas out and done. So we know what they drew. They drew Moon Mirror Shield, no surprise there. So ideally they're probably going to summon a monster and use Moon Mirror Shield with it. So we'll see what monster he's going to summon. Dangers are supposed to be pretty good for this, although I'm not too sure why. A lot of the best I guess it's just beaters. Just a lot of beat stick dangers can do really well. Although the Time Lord thing was kind of surprising to me, a bit of random. I did look after this if that what Time Lords are available, and Michian is at 1, so you're allowed to play 1 copy of Michian. Still annoying, but hey, it is what it is. If I had a Dynamiscus available to me, I could deal with it quite easily. So our opponent here is going to attack into QB, thinking he's going to get over our monster, and we're just going to respond with Mystical Space Typhoon, get rid of that Moon Mirror Shield. Sorry, bub. Get rid of it. Get off the field. Don't want to be dealing with that card, and boom, 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 boom. 6 spell trap removals. I think that's a nice optimum answer here. Normally you'd play like Heavy Storm and then 3 MSTs, but no, 6 is nice. 6 individual ones, plus they're Paleozoic, so they come back. And that's the video, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've enjoyed playing Majespecters, or maybe even True Draco if you want to see the profile for that. That is already uploaded to the channel. And if you haven't played either of those, let me know what you've been playing for the NR Festival. As always, feel free to add me and duel against me. Details should be in the description. And I'll see you soon. Take care.